Hey FFR listeners, this is the producer Rob speaking. It's that time of year when everyone starts to think about the important things in life, like our taxes. Did you know that a donation to Feminist Frequency is actually tax deductible? If you have a few bucks a month to spare, head on over to patreon.com/femfreak, F-E-M-F-R-E-Q. Help us out, but also help yourself to all the great exclusive content that's available only to people who are signed up on our Patreon.
The play version explicitly mentioned that he was gay, but the film adaptation took that away, and instead it was like, he's being bullied because he loves to read. And like,
welcome to Feminist Frequency Radio presents Machos Fully Loaded. This is the podcast that asks you to be critical of the media you love, and this is the season where we're taking a sincere, thoughtful look at masculinity in movies and TV. I'm Kat Spada.
And I'm AC Lamberty. This week, we're not talking about machos. We're looking at another side of masculine characters on screen. We're going full sweetie mode, even, to talk about the soft boys of cinema.
Strap in and strap on?
Period. Maybe it applies. We'll get there. We'll thread that needle.
Monsters.
100% pure adrenaline.
Weapons.
Your move, creep.
Dominance.
Pain don't hurt.
Machos.
The only place you're gonna go is the hospital.
I will be right back.
This is such a weird topic. We've thought about it from the beginning, but it's like, what could this mean? I mean, what does it mean just to say, like, I'm picturing a mean dad in a movie saying to his son, like, don't be soft, boy.
Yeah, soft boy is so nebulous. I gotta be honest, preparing for this episode, I was thinking a lot about what a soft boy is, who our prototypical soft boys are.
Yeah.
And I found it pretty hard to pin, honestly. It really is like, I know it when I see it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And then, like, you know, when we were doing teen machos, we started the season off, I was thinking about, like, not just teen boys, but like teen machos specifically. And so this week I was thinking about, like, what are macho, when has there been an intersection between, like, macho men on screen that also have these qualities that we think of as, like, softer, sensitive, sweetie, and what is that even? Yeah, do you stop being a macho when you start being a soft boy?
Yeah, and I think there's a ton, I mean, to go to your teen machos point, a ton of overlap with our brooders that we talked about for sure. But the more I think about it, the more I'm like, is it really kind of a physical thing? Which is something I will talk about and maybe have a little bit of beef with. But, like, for example, Patrick Swayze, in my mind, patron saint of the pod,
yes,
is kind of a soft boy. Like, he's a dancer, he's a thespian, like, he is sensitive, he, like, cares about women, like, whatever, but he is jacked and gigantic. And
pain don't hurt.
Exactly.
But he has soft feathered hair.
Exactly. It's interesting. But in my head, like, when I think soft boy, current cultural conversation, I'm like Timothée Chalamet,
right?
Harry Styles, Lucas Hedges, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
So are these the boys? Well, Lucas Hedges, is Ben back? Right. Well, okay. Is Lucas Hedges an out gay man?
TBD. It was literally announced this morning that he's starring in a Broadway version of Brokeback Mountain.
Wow.
So we'll see.
See you in New York.
Or West End, rather, but...
See you in London. No, I mean, okay, I say that not to be, like, time for goss, but to talk about, like, this isn't our episode that's strictly about, like, machos who are in the homo masculinity space.
Right.
Like, but there is obviously, any time that men are quote-unquote feminized, it then begs the question about, like, does their sexuality have to come into play?
Totally.
And
so much like, soft boy stuff there's a queerness there, whether intentional or not.
Right. And we're here, like, we're going to explore it. Like, I certainly don't have, like, a this is a definition of like what this genre means. I don't think it has to be one thing or the other. Someone that I like I'm not going to feature in our episode today, but I was thinking about is Trevante Rhodes in Moonlight.
Yeah.
And obviously this is a story about a gay man, but like he goes as far into being hard and withdrawn as a defense mechanism. And we know that there is this like softness that's not just about being gay, but that's just about being like wanting to be gentle and wanting to be loved and wanting to be touched.
Yeah.
And it's almost like, would those characteristics exist if it wasn't a story about a gay man?
Yeah. Right.
I don't know.
I think, I mean, I'll get into this with my examples a bit.
Yeah.
But it's really interesting thinking about soft boys in like straight content, especially. I mean, one of the films I'm going to talk about is an explicitly gay text, and I think I don't know, for some reason those stories have a little bit more room to play with the soft boy persona, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, when it comes to like a period drama or a Timothée Chalamet love story or whatever, like I also really see the appeal for like straight women in a soft boy type. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's fascinating.
Timothée Chalamet is so interesting to me. Do you think he's like, are you like, that's a hot guy?
Listen, I think he's beautiful.
Yeah.
I think he is
star of Beautiful Boy himself.
Exactly. I mean, I'm sorry to say this on the pod, and I will say it again. It's in my show notes. I think he's toppable from my point of view. But I also like he is the straightest man alive to me. It's such a weird kind of mental gymnastics I do with him.
Once you see the like rap videos he made in high school, it's hard to unsee them. We might talk about this on the bonus. I've been reading the book Dune because I loved the movie, the Denis Villeneuve movie so much. And I would have thought, I mean, whatever. I'm not going to get into the whole like Kyle MacLachlan thing, but you think, oh, is this going to be our boy hero? But then he's perfect as a boy hero.
Yeah.
He's like a man in his 20s who's playing a character that's supposed to be like 15. But
such a weird alchemy that man has.
Yeah. I like him. I think I'll be very curious to see like, who's the model? Like, I'm curious to see what happens when he's 40.
Yeah.
Is it Ethan Hawke?
That's like scary to think about.
But like
Ethan Hawke feels close, yeah.
Boyish, right? You know, he's playing like these ingenue characters, but what like will Timothée Chalamet ever play someone's dad?
Oh my god.
Sorry.
What's gonna happen to his beautiful hair? Like, is he gonna cut it like, wow. Even the physical aspect of like, that's insane to think about.
Ponytail.
Anyway, our first sponsor this week is Timothée Chalamet. We just gave him 9 minutes of airtime.
We have complicated feelings about you, but overall we love you. But anyway, I'm really excited for who you're about to talk about because this is absolutely like one of my Hollywood loves, and not because I'm like attracted to him. My heart grows 3 sizes when I think about this man.
He is fantastic, genuinely so talented. All right, let's kick this soft boy analysis off. Perhaps the softest boy? He is Paddington Bear. Name a boy softer than that. You can't. I'm not going to literally be talking about Paddington, but I'm doing a little case study this week on one of the prototypical soft boys, Ben Whishaw. Ben Whishaw, if for those unfamiliar, is a cutie, sweetie British actor. Probably best known for being the voice of Paddington Bear. He's great in that. He played Q in the Daniel Craig Bond films.
Yeah.
Bringing being a twink to the mainstream, I think. He also, I don't know if you saw Perfume, the Story of a Murderer. That was kind of like a buzzy indie title in like the early 2000s.
I remember it. I didn't see it, but he has been like both a lead and a character actor this whole time.
Yeah.
I saw him in the 4th season of Fargo, where he was this like violent, quiet, mysterious character. So I've seen him, play like different types over the years.
Totally. He has a fascinating career trajectory. He's very interesting to me because, like you said, he plays character, he plays leading men. He's an openly gay man in his personal life, but plays straight and gay roles, which I think is kind of hard for actors occasionally. But as it relates to being a soft boy, I think he's really interesting as an actor in that way because he uses this soft boyness to varying degrees across all of these projects. Like, at the heart of every role, I'm like, that's still a soft boy. Even though you're a murderer, even though it's a period piece, like whatever. Yeah. That soft boy DNA is still there. He's very Tumblrable. I remember in my Tumblr days seeing lots of GIF sets of him.
Right. And they would have like a cursive lyric over
the
middle, right?
Absolutely. One would be a close-up of a pocket watch or something. You know what I mean?
The weird thing, like you said earlier, it's perfect. It's like pornography. I know it when I see it.
Yeah.
I want to think that it's like they could cry at any moment versus like, oh, they shed a single tear at the end of like after killing 4,000 people. And it's like, wow, what a tough guy. It's like they are so raw in their access to their emotion or something.
Yes.
Like maybe that's part of it.
Access is a really interesting word that I was thinking a lot about during this. So I watched 2 Ben Whishaw films. The first was 2009's Bright Star, a period drama about the poet John Keats, directed by Jane Campion, who is one of my faves. And then this year's film Passages, which premiered at Sundance, but it is a super like juicy, toxic bisexual drama directed by Ira Sachs. And I really liked watching both of these and kind of trying to define like the tenets of soft boyism.
Yeah.
So with these 2 films, my hope is that like we can use Ben Whishaw as our soft boy guinea pig to get to the heart of what is kind of an elusive category of macho or anti-macho.
It's interesting to think about, okay, the anti-macho. Yeah, like I am so excited to see Passages for 100 reasons.
Ooh, so good.
Bright Star, I have seen several times. It is a beautiful movie, luxurious to look at. But he is also playing like he's playing a real person and he's playing a sick man. And I'm curious like how that kind of played into your analysis.
Yeah, I mean there's
sick, meaning like with an illness.
Twisted.
I didn't want any listeners to be like, he's sick, like he does ollies or something.
There's an interesting relationship to like caregiving that I was thinking about as kind of a core characteristic of soft boys. But I'll start with kind of my primary observations. I feel very like I'm doing an anthropological study on this. Bright Star, I think, has so many soft boy key tenets, basically. It's beautiful. It's so romantic. It's like so painful, which I think is a big soft boy thing. And it centers around poet John Keats, who is very handsome, very aloof. I mean, he's a fucking poet, like hot, so hot, who falls in love with his neighbor, who is a young seamstress named Fanny Braun. They have a very beautiful, fraught relationship. All that Fanny wants to do is marry Keats. But Keats is constantly like, I can never do that. I can't provide for you because I'm merely a poet and I make no money. And so it's a big back and forth over like, will they, won't they? They don't. But they spend most of their time like reading poetry to each other and literally laying in flower beds. And when they're not together, they write these insane, just like heartbreaking, beautiful letters to one another. And Ben Whishaw, I mean, like I mentioned earlier a bit, like appearance-wise, like soft boy. He's wayfish.
Slight,
yes. He has floppy hair. He looks like a little porcelain doll. But he, as I mentioned as well, I find him very toppable. But again, see the appeal for straight women too, like in a straight biopic, especially.
Thinking about the casting, I mean, Jane Campion always has such interesting casting in her movies. Who's that guy who plays his friend in the movie?
Oh, Daniel Schneider, something like that.
He was in the first season of Parks and Rec.
Yes, okay, I do have to Google this real quick.
But he's like more of he's like a Mark Ruffalo type, you know?
Paul Schneider, yes.
Paul Schneider. He's a little, just like broader shoulders, and he's got like facial hair and...
a Scottish brogue, like really thick accent.
Yeah, and even Abby Cornish, who's playing Fanny, is like, she's not Keira Knightley. Like, I mean, gosh, we're talking about Hollywood here. Like, I'm not saying like it's sizable in any way, but like they could easily have paired him with somebody that would make Ben Whishaw seem like a larger, imposing man. And instead they're like two birds on a branch next to each other.
Yeah,
you know?
Truly. And even in terms of physicality, like that makes me think a lot about kind of the caretaking aspect, like you mentioned. Pretty much the body positioning itself is so interesting. Like whenever we see them like embracing or together or whatever, Keats is kind of always in like a traditionally feminine role. Like I don't even know what that means, but like he is the one being held. He is the one doing the nestling. He is the one like being taken care of in that way.
Yeah.
But in a way that seems kind of empowering to Fanny, at least. Like it's not like there is a caregiving there, but it's not like a kind of long-suffering mother kind of vibe. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Which I found really interesting. So with that, I mean, beyond physical appearance, being a waif, being a little doll, I found it fascinating and like really important that soft boy number one, John Keats, in this example, is an artist. And in thinking about soft boys of cinema, this seems like an incredibly common thread. I think it like definitely ties into the brooder trope in teen machos as well.
Yeah.
But art in some way is like it's access to men's emotions in a way that feels more authentic or more sensual.
Yeah.
It is maybe a stand-in for femininity, or it's a way that, you know, it's a more earthy kind of like natural connection to like oneself and others.
Yeah.
Like for example, off the dome, I was like Timothy Chalamet playing the piano. Call Me by Your Name. Lucas Hedges even in the School musical and Lady Bird. Frickin' Cole Sprouse in Riverdale. His whole thing is that he's writing a novel. Even like Oscar Isaac in Inside Llewyn Davis, I think is like a big time soft boy. But
well, he's got. I mean, just the fact that cats are always feminized.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
No, this is so interesting because we've talked for the last 2 episodes about men and boys who are using their bodies as a transactional way to be a man, whether it's like to earn money or to get fame or to be somebody on the football field. It's like all using your body. Of course, there's a lot of art that's very physical, but these are boys that are using their hearts and their minds in a way that's going to be their calling card. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that.
Totally. And I think in the same way that like the conversations about men using their bodies is like a proxy or like a way that women or other people access them emotionally or something like that. Like I feel similarly about the positioning of art in these kind of stories. Like it's maybe more emotion or more access that we get from men typically in cinema or TV or whatever, but it's still pretty sanitized. I mean, like it's poetry, it's songwriting. It's not necessarily truthful. Like it's not ugly. It's still very like it's a performance, which I think is really attractive for a lot of reasons. But on that, I mean, this is kind of like the first like line of thinking about queerness that I had as it relates to the arts. I think there's a really interesting relationship between soft boys, specifically in straight stories like Bright Star, and queerness, that I think art is often used as a stand-in for queerness or femininity. it's kind of hard for me to articulate. So I'm excited to get your thoughts on this. But
Yeah.
I think there's something there. And with Bright Star specifically, it's like Keats as a poet for Fanny is approachable, especially compared to Paul Schneider's character, Charles Brown.
Yeah.
Because his craft feminizes him or it queers him.
Right.
Like literally at one point, he's talking to Fanny before they even first kiss, like they're kind of courting or like skirting around one another. And he says to her that he has always felt like he doesn't have the right feelings for women, that he's never been in love with a woman, which I think obviously has a queer read to it. But for an audience of straight women, for example, and like perhaps literally for Fanny in the text, it's very appealing because it like creates this air of specialness or like uniqueness.
Right. And that's something, right, that's traditionally been a value for a woman to be, let's say, a virgin. And if this is a man who is saying, Fanny, you're my first, you're the first love, or you're the first time I've ever felt this way, like that is something we don't usually see.
Yeah, it's like deeply romantic.
It puts them on some even footing, right? Like if art or writing is something that they both can access a little bit.
Yeah,
I mean, she's a craftsperson and an artist, but she can write letters to him that are as
absolutely
emotionally bald as his.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's really intoxicating, and I think it works that way in the movie too. Like this soft man is like so consumed by her and has never felt this way. And usually these feelings are reserved just for his craft. And so now that he feels that way for her, it's literally like intoxicating for them, which I think is just like beautifully shown. But really unique. And I definitely think there's a queer reading there. And in talking about this kind of trope or the use of the arts or humanities, which feels really like high school, as a stand-in for queerness, I was talking to a good friend of mine who brought up the film Tea and Sympathy, a Vincent Minnelli film from 1956, which I haven't seen, but I read a bunch about it. It was adapted from a play about a private school boy who was bullied because he was gay. Like the play version explicitly mentioned that he was gay. That was text. But the film adaptation took that away and instead was like, he's being bullied because he loves to read and like loves the arts and hangs out with his English teacher, which is like funny now that like, I don't know, the meme or the joke about gay kids loving hanging out with their English teacher. Like, yeah, it's real. But it's the Bright Star connection there.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously Keats was a real person, but it's just interesting as kind of a soft boy lineage. You know what I mean?
Why do you think they even made this movie? I mean, 1956. I understand maybe why they couldn't get away with it, but like, then why bother making this movie?
That's a great question.
I mean, it's like
what's the point?
Have you seen The Children's Hour with?
I haven't, but I immediately thought of that too, and this came up in conversation with my friend who was like, I don't even think they are actually gay. It just is a rumor that happens, you know.
Yeah, and I don't know about this, like if it's about the source material. I think it's kind of made clear, and they never say anything, but it's like Shirley MacLaine is like, yes, the rumor is true about me, but not about you, kind of a thing.
Oh, interesting.
But both of them can suffer because of it.
Yeah.
And you watch it and you're like, it's almost funny because it seems so like the acrobatics are just so unnatural.
Yeah.
But then when you think, well, this wouldn't have felt that way at the time. I'm going to have to watch Tea and Sympathy and just try to wrap my head around that one.
Yeah. It's interesting. There's a lot of, it's kind of an unavoidable conversation to have, which is strange to me that like, if a man in film or honestly like celebrities in real life are so artistic or effeminate about the work that they do, for example, in the arts or whatever, like there's speculation about sexuality. And so I don't know, that's what Bright Star made me think of.
It's all part of the bigger gay panic of like, fellas, is it gay to have a zest for life? Like, you know, like
Experience joie de vivre.
yeah, I mean, like, you know, it seems like every human should be able to benefit from being able to lay in a field of lavender and smell the air, right?
Yeah.
To have some joy come from nature.
Mm-hmm.
But no macho would do that.
Yeah, and that you even just saying it that simply is like, well, that's obviously the appeal of the straight soft boy, at least.
Yeah.
Like it just is like, it's sensual. It feels good. Like it's beautiful.
Right.
And who doesn't love that? You know?
Let salt water touch your toes or whatever, like anything. But it's just like, I don't know, there's something I think that we apply to like very type A masculinity, which is like a utilitarianism. And anything that's beyond like hedonism or utilitarian drive is like not masculine in some way.
Oh, that's brilliant. Utilitarianism, that's so true. Wow, I love that.
Yeah.
I think we've cracked it.
We've done it. We did it in 3 eps.
But artisticness, femininity, adjacency to queerness, even depending on the film, I feel like is a pretty key tenet of soft boyism. But another one that came out of Bright Star for me was just suffering for love.
Oh. Yeah, now you're speaking my language. This is what I look for in this is what I look for in like straight male characters.
Exactly. Yes.
Heartbreak. Heartache.
Like, it's truly like there are a few things hotter than just a beautiful boy being just like laid bare by romance. It's so hot. It's incredible. So Wishaw, Ben Wishaw as Keats, is in love with Fanny Braun in this crazy, like all-consuming, deeply period drama way. I wrote down a couple of the quotes that he wrote about her that I was just like, oh my God. So in one of the letters that they're writing to one another when he is away from her, he says, I have 2 luxuries to brood over in my walks. First of all, incredible.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I love it. But your loveliness and the hour of my death. Oh, that I could have possession of them both in the same minute. Like,
oh my God.
Bitch, come on. It's incredible. Like, I really think that a soft boy without kind of the torment or angst of love is not a soft boy. And I think that's a pretty hard and fast rule in some ways.
Yeah.
And then even to take it a step further, what I think is interesting about John Keats and Fanny Braun's relationship is that, I guess kind of spoilers, I mean, he's like a historical figure, but spoilers anyway, up until Keats dies about like a year and a half or 2 years into their relationship, the movie at least implies that they didn't have sex. And that's kind of what I found in my research too. And at one point, Keats's friend, the Charles Brown, who we talked about, Paul Schneider, oh my God. He says at one point, like, why not bed her? She'd do whatever you want. It may relieve your condition. But Keats is like, no, I respect women. At one point, like, as he gets sicker and sicker, Fanny at one point is like, I would do anything, like very clearly saying I would have sex with you if that's like what you want as you die. Yeah. And he says, I have a conscience. And I think this is also a huge part of the soft boy appeal. Like, he's not necessarily in it for sex or like physical pleasure, but just for the devastation of love.
Yeah.
Like, he is not like other boys in that way. He's ready to be consumed.
Wow. First of all, add to the line of merch, not like other boys, as like a t-shirt.
Yes.
But
I
then
love that.
On the back, like asterisk, like, I have but 2 luxuries to brood on for my walks.
He would love the hot girl walk trend, I feel. He's an ally.
Yeah.
In that way.
God.
So that's Bright Star, which period piece, canonically straight text, etc. And I wanted to kind of contrast that with Passages, which again came out this year, premiered at Sundance, and is a very different film. Passages is a textually gay film about a gay couple, and I think the role allows Ben Whishaw to kind of play with the soft boy persona in a way, and like make the connection to queerness explicit, and also problematize that in a way. So Passages, for context, is about a contemporary gay European couple, Franz Rogowski, who, my God, what a face. He's so beautiful and such a great actor. He plays a filmmaker named Tomas. Ben Whishaw plays Martin, who is like, I really couldn't tell you what he does. He like is a print shop manager. They live in France and just have like the most beautiful French life. So I'm like, yeah, fuck it. He like works with paints or something.
Right.
So they are a couple. They live in France. Tomas on set meets this woman, Agath, who's played by Blue is the Warmest Colors, Adele Exarchopoulos, and starts to have an affair with her despite having only been with men for most of his life. And the affair kind of challenges both Ben Wishaw's character, Martin, and Tomas's understanding of their relationship and their sexuality. But damn, it's just amazing. Toxic bi romp. Like, it's great. It's funny, it's sad, it's crazy. It's really, really good.
A celebration of gay rights and gay wrongs.
Yes, absolutely. And so as with Bright Star, we see Wishaw like engaging in a lot of soft boyness. Like he works in visual art of some sort.
Right.
His husband's a filmmaker, and then Ben Whishaw starts a relationship with an author. There was like an incredible soft boy scene where Ben Whishaw and his like new author boyfriend have drinks with a publisher, and they are just like drinking martinis and being geniuses in France and like making out. It's incredible. And there is a ton of suffering for love between this like love triangle. And of course, like physically, he's Ben Whishaw. Like he's a gorgeous twink and like has the soft boy look going on.
Yeah.
But unlike Bright Star or other soft boy media, it's not relationship drama that is melodrama. It's like very real emotional hurt.
And
which doesn't feel very soft boy.
There's also access to sexuality, which like to sex, not just sexuality, but like to actual that they have physical relationships, and it isn't all of that just pining necessarily.
Totally. Yeah, there are a couple explicit sex scenes that are really well done for what it's worth, but one of them specifically, we see Ben Whishaw like weaponizing his sexuality specifically to hurt his partner. Like he starts hooking up with this guy in his marital bed and kind of times it for when Tomas comes home or like will come by the house. I think at this point they're separated, but times it so that he will see that he's with another person.
Right.
And it kind of wreaks emotional havoc on him that way. But yeah, I thought it was really interesting that Passages like allows the soft boy to weaponize softness and sexuality in this way.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, that opens up again the conversation about soft boy media using queerness or like adjacency to queerness as a way to appear non-threatening or approachable.
So that's something in the godforsaken world of chads and beta males where in heterosexual relationships...
Hashtag proud beta. That's merged. Okay.
In the like parlance of these like straight this straight world, right? It's about like being cuckolded is like the absolute vacuum of masculinity, right?
Yeah.
And so it's interesting to see, like, we talked about this a little bit last week, but in like maybe in gay relationships, or at least in how they're portrayed, it's like there isn't that kind of preciousness necessarily about like if infidelity occurs, maybe that infidelity is dealt with, but it doesn't have necessarily anything to do with like you are less of a man.
Yeah.
And here it is something that's being used as a weapon, but not I'm very curious to see this, how the gender politics play out.
Yeah. It's really interesting. I think it is especially interesting in that I expected there to be kind of a moment with Ben Wishaw's character where he gets upset. It's in an explicit way where he's like, you're with a woman now, like that's fucked up. You're going to regret it. Something like that. You know, the kind of classic bisexual trope in that way, but that never happens. I think it's all under the surface. Like the performances are great. So I think that's definitely part of the context. But yeah, it really is more about sexuality in an individual relationship than it is like identity as a whole.
Right. Kind of like The Kids Are All Right, which played with that kind of like, can you be in a gay relationship and then have feelings for somebody of the opposite gender? And it's like, even that movie probably, if we watched it today, would feel extremely out of date. But I don't know. I haven't seen it since 2009 or whatever.
Yeah. It's interesting. I love it as a really hyper-specific exploration of one relationship, or like two, I guess. Because I also think part of this conversation is that mainstream queer cinema is not necessarily allowed to explore relationships in this way. And have soft boys be toxic to one another. You know, I think we should empower soft boys to be bad people on screen.
Well, and Timothée Chalamet is doing that work. You know,
That's true.
He is doing that work. He did it in Lady Bird.
Bones and All, kind of. God, Bones and All would be one we can really get into with the soft boys. Did you see it?
I haven't seen it.
Oh my God, Kat. Oh, I should have done. Oh man. Well, bonus episode explicitly on Bones and All.
Machos who are cannibals.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, thank God for him. Okay, we talked a little bit about like how it comes into like sexuality, or why like the straight soft boy would be appealing to women. But I do think that there's also this like ally of women thing that is important. Ben Whishaw in Women Talking.
Yes.
The one like adult man in that movie. And
who's literally just like, I'm just here to listen.
Yeah.
I sat my soft boy ass down and listened.
And it's incredible. And he has romantic pining that it kind of doesn't really matter whether or not he has it, but he has it.
He's educated and like reads and writes.
Yeah. He feeds water out of the well in his cupped hand.
Oh.
It's kind of something there.
Yeah. Well, anyway, to cap off my Ben Whishaw, I mean, I think he's just such a good guinea pig for the soft boy prototype. But I think my biggest takeaway is that like all things with masculinity, different types or tropes or categories or whatever, I think there are really good and exciting and like subversive examples that challenge problematic aspects of masculinity and really redefine what it means to be a man. Like, I think Ben Whishaw does that in a lot of his roles, for sure.
Yeah.
But I think soft boys as a whole, like, of course, there are harmful aspects of that I think, especially when it comes to like physical appearance, really serve to uphold hegemonic ideals. Like, especially thinking about like whiteness and thinness. Like, all of the soft boys that like immediately come to mind for me are like waifish white boys that like every article I Googled, I remember there were like a bunch of think pieces in like 2020 or 2021 that were like, what is the soft boy? Like, what is this new kind of man or whatever?
Right.
That would reference Timothée Chalamet, Harry Styles, Lucas Hedges, Lucas Gage, Cole Sprouse, like whatever. I think it's an interesting needle to thread about like how that upholds kind of hegemonic ideals.
Yeah. The first person I think of is, and maybe just because he's a hunk of the moment, Harvey Guillen in What We Do in the Shadows. Like, he's very thoughtful and he's a servant, you know, when this all starts. But then, of course, by where we are now, he's very much a fighter. Like, that's a big part of his character. But he's wearing a sweater vest and, you know, kind of starts out rather quiet. So I don't know. Maybe there's... It's also hard to think about the soft boy in like a comedy. Yeah. I think
without it being the butt of the joke, you know. I don't think we've quite gotten there yet in mainstream culture. I would love to see that.
Yeah.
Would love for more men to be able to be soft boys, I think.
Well, continuing the trend of not understanding what a soft boy is. Like, I may or may not have misinterpreted my own assignment this week. Because I was like, having the same existential crisis. What is a soft boy? Like, there are many quote unquote straight twinks I've loved over the years. Can I use that phrase?
Absolutely.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt in 10 Things I Hate About You, Charlie, the ballet dancer in Center Stage, Noah Taylor in the very problematic 1991 film Flirting, or Patrick Fugit as baby Cameron Crowe in Almost Famous.
Oh, wow.
But I decided this week to talk about the HSM, a highly sensitive macho. Because the highly sensitive macho alights my mind, my heart, and my loins. They're like you said, we're talking sweetie mode this week. And access to emotions and like tears, and can the boy be sad in a way that's not like, oh, he's sad, so he's going to do a violence.
Right.
Like,
yes.
I think part of this is like a little bit of a wish fulfillment, maybe, of the type of man that has feminine qualities and isn't afraid of them, maybe.
Yeah, for sure.
Which is not the type of man that our society generally creates or uplifts. But obviously these are all like, every one of the characters that we're talking about, John Keats was a real person, but like these are all stylized, highly stylized characters.
For sure.
So first I want to talk about a topic that could get many machos up in their feelings, their mamas. Have you ever seen the movie Kabhi Khushi Kabhie Gham?
I have not.
So this is one of my favorite movies from Hindi cinema. I watched it when I was a freshman in high school, I think. It is a 2001 movie from Karan Johar, and the title translates as Sometimes Happiness, Sometimes Sadness.
True.
So true. This is life. It's also like, it's a big epic, it's a saga. It takes place over like 20 years. It starts with a title card that says, it's all about loving your parents.
Oh my God. As someone, listen, filial piety, as someone from the Midwest, huge for me.
You
Love
are
it.
mama's boy number one.
Big time. Yeah.
And okay, so you need to see this movie. You should watch this movie with your mom, actually.
Oh, I actually think she would probably love, based on what I'm seeing. Okay,
yeah.
Continue.
But first of all, like, big time disclaimer. So I hadn't watched the whole movie in many years. And some of the jokes I did remember, but watching it again, there is so much body shaming and fat phobia in this movie that has literally nothing to do with the plot or the story or the characters. It is just early aughts pop culture.
It's 2001 for you.
Yeah, like, you know, in between watching ANTM cycles and Shallow Hal, like, there are a lot of digs at like a little boy in this movie who, had an extra sweet at the table or whatever. So like, big time disclaimer, if you don't want to see like more than a little of that, like, there is a decent amount of that in this movie. I had thought about this movie for the pod because I'd recently watched a Netflix docuseries called The Romantics, which is about a sort of family dynasty of filmmakers in Hindi cinema. And it reminded me, oh gosh, this movie was like, I used to know the songs. I used to try to learn the dances. I really loved this one.
Love that.
Kabhi Khushi Kabhie Gham, sometimes called K3G, stars superstar Shah Rukh Khan, who had made his name as a tough. He was in anti-hero roles. He was, villainous in a way where he'd be on a motorcycle and, getting into fights and wearing leather jackets. Yeah. But this all kind of changed in 1995 when the blockbuster Dilwale Dulhania Le Jayenge, or DDLJ, came out. This would become one of the most successful Indian films of all time. I want to say probably just films of all time.
Cool.
It played, I'm going to have the details wrong, but like, Dilwale played in theaters for like 20 years.
Wow. The cats of
Yes.
movies.
Yeah. Always
That's
and
crazy.
forever. Dilwale. And this like was the first time that he was given a chance to be a romantic lead. Romance being a majorly successful film genre in India. And
It's crazy to say. It's giving Swayze a bit.
it's giving Swayze big time. I mean, that's the thing too, is like you cannot be a successful star in Indian cinema if you can't dance.
Oh,
And to that, I
why
say,
don't we have that metric?
yeah, shame on the rest of us. Big time.
I agree.
I looked up,
We used to be a real country. Men used to dance.
men
Okay,
used to
continue.
dance. No, I looked up like, look, I'm by no means an expert on anything having to do with Indian cinema, but I was like, I'm pretty sure every Indian film I've seen has had song and dance in it. And there was like a Wikipedia article with the list of successful Indian films that do not have song and dance in them. And it was a very short list. So that is just part of the storytelling. And there's a little bit of magical realism also that kind of comes with that.
I love that.
Which maybe lets us tap into the melodrama, tap into the emotions, find the softness in these men.
Yeah.
But after Dilwale came out, Shah Rukh Khan's perception, his career completely changed. He has been a megastar ever since. And playing his younger brother in this movie is Hrithik Roshan, who had debuted the year before in the thriller Kaho Na Pyar Hai. Khan and Roshan are actors who they both have played like alcoholics, the like grizzled fallen athlete who has to coach a team now because he, fell on hard times. Roshan played like a superhero in kind of a successful, like long-running
Cool.
superhero franchise. Doom, which was like the Fast and the Furious or a Michael Bay type movie where they're riding motorcycles and robbing banks. And in Kabhi Khushi Kabhie Gham, like Hrithik Roshan is a muscle daddy first and foremost. Shah Rukh Khan I would not describe as like hunky in that way. Like he's very handsome and dashing, debonair.
Yeah.
But Hrithik has got like muscles on his muscles.
Roshan is the body.
He's the body, but he's also the face. Like he's got like a Kirk Douglas face and an Oakland booty.
Just Googled and you're right. Yeah, he's gorgeous.
Yeah, and like, of course in this movie we're dealing with some 2001 fashion, so there's a lot of like tank tops because he needs to flex, and what else is happening?
Of course.
Lots of sleeveless dance scenes. So you will see him like being a muscle guy driving a sports car in this movie.
Yeah.
But I think there are more tears shed in this 3 hours than in like the rest of American cinema history combined.
Oh, well, that's amazing.
These boys be crying.
Yes. Let it out.
And like, I didn't even necessarily remember that about the movie. I just was like, oh yeah, there's two brothers and they each have like kind of a romance and there's like family sadness. But watching it again, I was like, if you might have one scene with no crying and then 3 scenes where everyone's crying. And it is, it's like, your heart has to be open to this kind of thing. I think that's true also of like Bright Star. There are some people who are just going to find that movie boring.
Yes.
And you might watch this and find it over the top because it is so emotional.
God, I love that about melodramas though. It's like
Yeah.
if you completely give yourself over to earnestness and like just pureness of feeling, it works.
Yeah.
It works. And I love that coupled with machismo a bit here.
There's like a release, it's cathartic.
Yeah.
Because there are like interludes where there's a really up-tempo dance sequence that is like, oh, this is fun, this looks cool, this is exciting. And then you get the like really wringing your heart out, like, I promised I'd never let my mother down. And I
was going to
did.
I was going to ask how the mother kind of plays into the soft boyness.
So
is it like a caretaking?
It's all about loving your parents. It's like when I realized that the movie Plane was about the plane. It's all about loving your parents. They tell you right up front.
They give it to you at the top.
Yeah. I mean, the premise of this is it's kind of high concept, really. It's like not that complicated. The older son of a very wealthy family falls in love with a girl that is quote unquote beneath him. And to be with her, he is abandoned by his father. So his father sends him away, and it breaks his mother's heart.
Oh.
And 20 years later, his little brother, who has not seen his big brother since he left, grows up, discovers the truth of what happened in their family, and is determined. He says, now I know why our mother has been so sad. And I now have the responsibility to bring her smile back by bringing my brother back.
God, I love that.
Yeah.
It's like, I feel like Bright Star and Passages are really, I mean, the subtext is deep subtext a lot of the time.
Yeah.
But for some of that, like, and I feel like that's maybe the case with a lot of soft boy cinema in a way. But I love that the high conceptness of this.
It's just
a foil in a way.
Yeah, and like, it's funny how I kind of misremembered it too from watching it when I was a teenager, where I remembered like, oh yeah, and there's like, they're having a falling in love dance sequence where like suddenly they're at the pyramids of Giza for some reason, and like it's never explained, but that doesn't matter, you know. And then watching it now, I'm like, that scene's not that important, you know. It's just that they had the budget and they were like, why don't we do this cool thing?
That's dope.
Yeah. So
more of that.
But like, you know, to have, again, like these men, like the main thing you know about them is that they love their mom. That is the number one character trait.
Yeah.
And our main guy also loves his wife, and this is very valuable and special, and makes him a bigger man than his like wealthy father who would disown his son.
Yeah.
But everything about them, I'm like, oh yeah, he's like maybe a businessman. I don't know. Like the brother like drives, like, I don't know, like a Maserati, and then like, you know, does a lot of like cool shades moving down his nose thing. Yeah. But that's like, there's like theoretically he has a romance with like this hot chick, but it's like not, it's mostly comic relief, honestly.
Yeah.
And then it's just a lot of scenes of him being like, what would your mother say if she knew? And he's like, I can't talk about that. I can't talk. Like but it's really like, again, if your heart is open to it.
Yep.
There is like, they never like come to blows. When they leave, the big fights that happen between father and son are just spoken, and they're quiet, and there are lingering shots of the mother's tear-stained face that are happening.
Whoa.
And it's very much like, it, you know, that's a sensitivity that I just don't think you often spend that much time on in a mainstream Hollywood movie. I think there's, you know, I have by no means seen like a large amount of Hindi or other Indian film industry output, but like sometimes it really is about like the romance. Sometimes it really is about the action. This one is all about loving your parents. Yeah, I just thought that was kind of surprising. Like, think about another movie that's about adult men who love their moms, and I know you're going to say Elvis, but like, other than Elvis.
Which feels like a great segue, but I will say this totally does check the soft boy rubric box of like adjacency to femininity.
Yeah.
Or like relationships with women that aren't about pleasure or control or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, come for the sappy siblings, stay for the 2001 fashion, and comic relief by Kajol, who is the world's most beautiful woman. She is a stunning painting of a woman, and she's playing like maybe kind of a manic pixie dream girl in this movie, but just in the way where she's always like dropping stuff and being like, oh boy, and there's like a literal like wow wow on the soundtrack. Yeah. But if you think that K3G is the only highly stylized melodramatic romance musical from 2001 that made a deep impact on me, you are sorely mistaken. Because Baz Luhrmann blessed us with Moulin Rouge in this very same year.
Fuck, yes. You know, I will say Moulin Rouge is really hard for me, but I'm a Baz Luhrmann stan, so I'm like, I'll give it a shot. I don't care. And I understand where you're coming from completely.
Okay, well, literally, like, I hated Moulin Rouge. I could not stand it. I remember my friends and I were like, what should we see? Moulin Rouge or Shrek? And I was like, definitely Moulin Rouge. And then we saw it and I was like, what was that? I wasn't into it. I had loved Romeo plus Juliet.
Me too.
I'm not sure if I'd seen Strictly Ballroom yet. I have since seen it several times. And then Moulin Rouge was just like always playing. Somebody had it on if we went over to a friend's house. And
are you theater kid culture? Because it feels very theater kid.
Yeah, I'm theater kid culture for sure. Like there's some stuff that I'm like, I don't get how people like this, but I'm much more inclined to actually like, I do like musical theater. I don't know why I'm like waffling on this. Yes, I'm a theater kid. But I hated this movie. And then just like one time, like the fifth time it was on, I just was in.
That's how Baz do. It really is.
I mean, I played just like a snippet of one of the songs while I was working on these show notes, and I know every word.
Ugh.
I felt the
Again,
way...
it's that earnestness, the melodrama. Just like give yourself over to it and you'll unlock something. Truly, I believe that.
And that is the Baz Luhrmann way. Like he leaves nothing off the table. to great error a lot of the time, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
And in this movie, there is so much that it's like, what choices, like that was regressive for 2001. What are you talking about with some of the like minor character names, the plot lines regarding the sitar player? There is a lot happening that is bonkers. But Ewan McGregor plays the love-struck Christian.
Yeah.
He is a writer, so we're back in our soft boy rubric.
Yep. Check.
And like thinking about the, highly sensitive machos, like Ewan McGregor isn't tough guy 101, but I do think like Ben Whishaw, he's played a lot of different types. He was a villain in the Birds of Prey DC movie. He's played obviously strung out addict and Trainspotting, Jedi Master. I did have to like ask someone. I was like, is Obi-Wan Kenobi a quote unquote Jedi Master? Is that an accurate phrase?
We can't be canceled over this.
No, I do not want to get that wrong. He's really, and like in his, personal life, like he's done, I'm gonna ride motorcycles across like South America or whatever. Like he's
for the climate.
Yeah, sure. Sure. Yeah. But once it clicked for me. Like Ewan McGregor is possibly the crush of my adolescence that I was like most disastrously horny for. Oh, as a teen.
I love that. I love that.
I mean, it's hard to. I printed out so many pictures of him and pasted them to my books and my wall and binders.
That's amazing.
It was sick.
And beautiful.
I was ill.
It's so funny to me how, like, I don't know, maybe this is the case with Ben Whishaw and, like, actors like Oscar Isaac and, like, even Pedro Pascal. I think it's like they're so, I think the soft boyness extends to their real life or at least, like, publicity persona in a way that's so effective.
Yeah. Like, and I think that's part of the whole, like, the gay baiting conversation.
Yeah.
Is how back in the day, taking a role in Velvet Goldmine is going to impact your star power, but is it going to impact it in the positive way that you want, even if it impacts it in the negative way the studio doesn't want or the agency doesn't want?
Oh my God,
because it opens you up to a fan base and it gives you a certain, like, clout. I was just listening to the Who Weekly episode about Diplo's interview with Emily Ratajkowski.
In some ways, I'm like, is he the most enlightened man in the world?
But right? I mean, this is the thing that, like, I feel like when we grew up on the internet with access to fanfiction.net, etc., etc., people started to wonder about, like, how or why there were young teens and in particular girls who were attracted to gay men, or writing /fan fiction between straight male characters and positioning them as gay. And this has been common for straight men to objectify women engaging in lesbian behavior, and that's just accepted. But this was maybe, like, newly perceived as something attractive to women to see boys kissing on Tumblr or what have you.
Totally.
But now I'm thinking about, like, I hadn't pinpointed the artist conversation, but thinking about artistry as the analogy for queerness, maybe. There's this, like, setup of Christian, Ewan McGregor's character, as having fled to Paris to pursue, like, the bohemian art scene. And it's played as if, like, he ran away to go be gay, do crime. And that's what his father was so mad about, you know?
Wow. Yeah. Another kind of stand-in moment, you know?
And he goes and makes friends with, you know, he's going to be a playwright and hang out with a band of merry performers, and they're going to drink absinthe played by Kylie Minogue. So, you know, embodied by
Baz Luhrmann, DM me. DM me. I know your secrets. Like, literally just text me.
Baz AC just wants to talk.
I just want to talk. It's crazy. Like, that, it's, come on. Okay, sorry, continue.
Well, look, we've talked, like, on Feminist Frequency Radio, we were talking about, like, James Cameron's obsession with large women as being, like, some kind of queerness that we don't really know how to identify. Like, if you're going to have Ewan McGregor move to Paris and fall in love with, like, gay mother Nicole Kidman, there's something about that, right? Like, Nicole Kidman is not a pinup model, you know, she's strange.
She's a muse.
Yeah. She's Miss AMC Theaters herself. And this is
so sorry. I'm really trying to think of how to work something James Cameron into the A in LGBTQIA stands for Avatar.
Oh.
Okay, I had to get that out there.
Wow.
We can move on.
Look, the Navi in me sees the Navi in you, and we'll leave it at that.
I see you. Okay, anyway.
And this is just, like, this is this kind of perilous romance. And so veering away, this is not about loving your parents. This is the kind of like truly ruined my psyche as it was forming. Obsession with romantic love.
Suffering for love.
Suffering for it. Like losing yourself over it.
Yep.
And that it could be as intoxicating and like totally love has to be the greatest love affair ever, or else it is nothing.
Yep.
And I think that kind of like absolute slavish dedication to love and romance and expression and through song like that that is this soft boy to me.
That's a soft boy.
That's the highly sensitive man. And
totally,
this is like, obviously it's a musical and it's not supposed to be realistic in any kind of way, but it's by end of night one they are in love forever and ever, amen. And but wait, there's more. Secret fatal bout of consumption is going to come ruin the day.
Fuck.
Oh no. Like, Chekhov's blood coughed into a handkerchief, as always.
Absolutely.
And this movie's got everything. There's an evil duke. There's a need to, put on a show to save the theater. There's love to love, which will save us forever from unknown peril. So Baz Luhrmann, I mentioned Romeo plus Juliet and Strictly Ballroom, which are these romantic movies. Strictly Ballroom is like very low stakes. It's great though. I do recommend it as like a very silly movie about ballroom dance. I don't know. Have you seen it?
I haven't. I really need to now. I mean, as an Elvis stan, I'm like, I need to kind of examine my roots a bit.
You definitely need to see it. The motto of that movie is a life lived in fear is a life half lived. And
say that.
It's about getting a quiet girl kind of out of her shell so that she can it's very Ugly Betty, which I've been watching.
First you have to take your glasses off.
You always have to take
if I know anything.
And teasing that, we might be talking about skincare in the bonus, unclear, but it is also about just clearing up a little bout of acne, taking the glasses off. Boom.
Oh my God.
Bingo bango.
Baz. Baz.
Now you're ready to date the hottest man on the dance floor.
I love that.
Then there's Romeo and Juliet. Need I say more? And of course, in Moulin Rouge, the greatest thing you'll ever learn is just to love and be loved in return. Cue me like throwing out my AP study guides. I know what I have to learn. Love. Only love.
Honey, I got a 5 on that test.
But
damn.
Also, there is, in both of these examples, there is the manipulative power of song. So that cannot be underestimated, because if you have access to melodrama, then like melodrama in music is just, I don't even know like the brain chemistry of how that works, but that certain chords set to certain lyrics are just going to make you feel things stronger. And it's just like Ewan McGregor is the perfect vehicle for these, because he completely, without any sense of like self-consciousness, the same man who could dive headfirst into a toilet in Train Spotting, in this can just starry-eyed with the brightest smile sing these lyrics that are very, 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 very goofy. And they've had a hold over me for way too long. There's the original song, Come What May, from the soundtrack, which is like Ewan and Nicole singing a duet about storm clouds may gather and stars may collide, but I'll love you until the end of time. And then there's
Barely a rhyme, but I love it.
It doesn't matter. Oh, it does not matter. But then there's the Elephant Love medley, which is like an assault on musical taste. Truly, I was looking like I was embarrassed when I was writing down which songs they pull snippets from for this pastiche.
I'm mostly unfamiliar. Can you
should I
give me a sampler platter?
It's literally like one of them will go, "Love lifts you up where we belong," and then the other one will be like, "And I will love you." Like, it is so...
It's like an improv game.
Yeah. It's an exquisite corpse mixed with, what's that? Something Crisis. There's that like musical theater nerd bar in New York that I've like always wanted to go to.
Oh my God. Macho's trip.
I mean, talk about though, like, what the real life soft boys that Baz Luhrmann and his music supervisor are pulling clips from. Paul McCartney, Phil Collins, come on.
That's incredible. Oh my God, Baz. I want to party with him so bad. It's crazy. Okay.
I think that Baz Luhrmann, like, as a filmmaker, he has access, right? That's what makes him so interesting. He is not afraid to play in the paint box, like,
and he knows how to pick a soft boy.
Yeah.
Young Leonardo DiCaprio, Ewan McGregor, Austin Butler, like, he can identify the prime soft boy.
Yeah. Hugh Jackman in Australia, an odd exception to the rule, but that movie itself, yeah. And I don't know. I mean, I think that, look, yeah, it took me like 5 viewings to like Moulin Rouge. And I have tried showing Kabi Kushi Kabi Gam to people who weren't going to be on board for it. Yeah. But you just have to decide if you're ready for some musical melodrama. And then you'll get some soft boy excellence in these films.
Succumb to the softness. Okay, as we wrap up, here is the rubric that I feel like the kind of key ideas.
Okay.
But this is what makes a damn soft boy. Number 1, earnest as hell.
Mm-hmm.
Have to be earnest. Have to feel things at 100. 2, love the arts. Please increase funding for arts programs in our schools. 3, some kind of relationship to queerness or femininity or something.
Positive.
Working on that.
Positive relationship with women, not necessarily sexual.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes. And suffering for love. 100%.
For love.
Yes. Big time.
What else is there? The dreams. This is the stuff dreams are made of.
Yeah, you did got a point.
Well, we'll be right back to share this season's version of the Freakout, which is Macho of the Week.
Hey, FFR listeners. Are you signed up to our Patreon yet? If you're not, you're missing out on special content made exclusively for our patrons. And if you're not a patron, that means that you're not helping me get paid. And if you're not helping me get paid, that means my good little dog Griffin isn't getting the good treats. Head on over to patreon.com/femfreak. That's FEMFREQ. Become a patron to get great content and also to make sure my dog Griffin gets the good treats. Oh, and you get the good treats as well, which in your case would be quality discussions about media.
What's your freakout?
Now it's time to talk about the macho that's been thrilling us, moving us, upsetting us, or infuriating us this past week. Over to you, AC.
All right. This week, I feel like last week Kat gave a very thoughtful, relevant macho of the week. Not me. This is a segment that is my excuse to talk about.
But it's THOT.
Yeah, exactly. Really just an excuse for me to talk about Hawkeye. And with this one in particular, I mean, like, we have to talk about him at some point. We both love him. This week's Macho of the Week. Please welcome to the Hall of Machos, Jonathan Majors.
Ooh.
Round of applause.
What a weirdo.
Listen, a soft boy?
I would like to see it. I don't know if I'm
going to make an
seen it
argument.
yet.
Kind of.
Okay.
So I thought about him in conjunction for the Soft Boys episode specifically, because as you mentioned, I also would love to see him in a soft boy role. I think he's an amazing villain and a great character actor. But oh my god, he would be so hot as a soft boy. Well, his Oscars fit, the kind of Sweeney Todd looking suit he had going on.
Inspired by Frederick Douglass, I heard.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I loved the fit. I feel like everybody on Twitter was like, give him a period drama. And I was like, yeah absolutely. So I'd love to see him in kind of a bright star of one's own. His Ebony magazine cover, the cut interview he did where he's like, here's how you woo someone. You watch Love and Basketball with them or whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
He's full sweetie mode there. And as you mentioned, being a weirdo with his little cup, his GQ 10 Essentials video required viewing. I think he is a very affected, artistic, weirdo soft boy that could really, I don't know, do some good soft boy work.
He's an artistic weirdo soft boy in the body of a Marvel villain.
Oh.
Right?
My dream man.
I get the sense, and we're absolutely just on the precipice with him. I mean, we've hardly... I think this is someone whose career is only going to get out of control huge, but he's if he didn't look like that, if he wasn't this Adonis, not playing Adonis in the Creed movie, he would just be doing weird shit as in movies. He's one of those Juilliard trained guys who can do a little bit of everything, and you see it in Kang, in Loki, and Quantumania. But no, I mean he's operating on a completely different level than anyone else is in those movies, in those scenes. We both saw Magazine Dreams, which there's a lot more to say about that movie, but he's playing someone who's very troubled and very internal and thoughtful and has big feelings. And that's maybe something we'll see directed or allowed to breathe differently in a future movie.
Totally agree. And even when I was thinking about him as Macho of the Week, I was like, there are some kind of soft boy moments in that movie in particular. I mean, very few relative to the rest of the movie, but I think right now he's so loves to use the body as an instrument, as a tool for the craft, which I love. I think he's brilliant. But would love to see him switched up a little bit.
Well, I can't...
Maybe get him in a romantic drama of some sort.
I cannot wait for the Hall of Machos roundtable discussion that's going to happen.
We're working on it. It is happening.
If you're hearing this and you know anybody who knows anybody,
Baz, I know you're listening.
Oh my gosh. Well, I think, okay. So I want to hear more from our listeners. We put out a rubric of what makes a soft boy in this kind of media landscape, but obviously we talked about all different types of characters and all different types of masculinity, and we're going to keep doing it. But let us know on social media if you can think of anyone that we're missing or anything we should be watching.
Totally.
That is our show for today. Thank you for joining us for this season of Feminist Frequency Radio presenting Machos Fully Loaded.
I am AC Lamberty. You can follow me on Instagram and Letterboxd at AC Lamberty on both. We got that running list of films going on Letterboxd. Check out.
I'm Kat Spada. I'm on Twitter at cat_ex_machina. And follow Feminist Frequency on all the socials at FemFreak. If you're a Patreon subscriber, please stick around for the bonus. We'll be doing a little bit of this, a little bit of that. We haven't decided if we're going to talk about Dune or if we're going to talk about skincare. But you know what? Tune in. Find out.
And if you like our show, help other people find it by subscribing, rating, and commenting on your favorite podcast app.
Thanks so much for listening. Bye.
Bye.